Hebrews 10 verse 39, though, helps us to transition to our final point. Hebrews 10:39 says, "But we are not of those who draw back to perdition." We are not those, as one other translation says, who shrink back. We're not. We're not, because we follow the King of courage. We follow the King of Kings, the Lord of Lords. We're not those who shrink back. Well, how is that so? It's only so when we close with Christ. And that's where we're going to wrap up now. 2 points with regard to this text pointing us to Jesus Christ. And the first is this: Christ faced our enemies with courage. This is one of the emphases of this story. These folks had the opportunity to face their enemies with courage, and they failed. By their failure, they're pointing us to a greater Israel. Not one who shrinks back and is destroyed, but one who conquers. Listen to this from Deuteronomy 1, 29 through 31. This is after Moses had tried to rally the people's hearts after the spies had discouraged them. He says this: "Do not be afraid of them. You saw how the Lord your God carried you as a man carries his son, all the way that you went until you came to this place." Moses is saying, look, we've been carried the way that a man carries his son ever since we left Egypt. Now, who is he talking about there? He's talking about Christ. Yes, he's talking about Israel. But in the New Testament, God confirms that Israel is a type of his dear Son, Jesus Christ. Matthew 2:15 quotes from Hosea 11, verse 1, where God says, "Out of Israel I have called my Son." Not just this people, but the person, Jesus Christ. This narrative is pointing us to Jesus, whom the Father carried. Even as Christ went through the valley of the shadow of death, he was carried by his loving Father. And because of this, Christ set his face to Jerusalem. He set his face to that place where he would be berated and hurt and mocked and killed, where his Father would project toward him the displeasure that he has towards sinners. But even on the cross, where Christ seems to be abandoned by God, he can say this: "Father, into your hands I commit my spirit." The Father called his Son out of Egypt, carrying him as a father carries his son. And when Jesus says, "Into your hands, Father, I commit my spirit," he's quoting from Psalm 31, verse 5. And if you have a chance later to look up Psalm 31 and verse 5, you'll see that David here confesses his confidence in God as his fortress against powerful adversity. David in that psalm is faced with great obstacles, some of which are very similar to some of the obstacles that you're facing right now. And David says, "Into your hands I commit my spirit." Words that are fulfilled by Christ on the cross, dying for us when he says, "Into your hands, Father, I commit my spirit." Christ is your champion. On that day, in that rebellion, Israel had no champion, no visible champion that would go up and sway the people and march upon Canaan and take the land, but it was pointing to Jesus Christ. Trust in him, and you will not be one of those who shrinks back to perdition, who follows a cowardly path to hell. Christ faced our enemies with courage for us.